Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas. Sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you to grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hi everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet, broadcasting from Burrowang down in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. And those of you overseas will know where that is because you've looked it up already. And those of you in Australia may not know where it is. But anyway, I'm joined today by Jane Langof, who's in Hunters Hill in Sydney, not far from where I spent a lot of my time when I lived up there. Jane, welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Thanks for being a guest.
Thanks, David. It's great to be here.
Now, Jane, I'm going to read your bio. Your bio is very impressive, but you're not actually a dentist. So let's frame you up for our listeners and viewers. Jane is actually an internationally accredited, multi-award winning Feng Shui master and designer based in Sydney, Australia. She's renowned for her expertise in blending traditional Feng Shui principles with modern design, and she transforms homes, workplaces, and community spaces into environments that elevate energy, flow, well-being, and success. Now, that immediately attracted me to have Jane as a guest on the podcast, because most dental surgeries out there and most medical offices and most allied medical offices look like they've been designed by somebody with no ability to use scissors, pen, or paper. They've just been hand drawn, and they put cupboards in view of doorways, and everything is just totally wrong. So, Jane, with that in mind, let me tell the viewers this too, that you're the author of the award-winning book Feng Shui, a homeowner's guide to abundance, a practical guide that demystifies Feng Shui for modern living. And don't we need that? Jane is also a sought-after speaker at design, lifestyle, and wellness events, sharing insights on how Feng Shui can inspire abundance and positive energy in any setting. Now, that's also why I've got you on the podcast as well, Jane, because every dentist needs abundance. It's hard to believe, but they do. And they certainly need positive energy, especially with all that negative energy that comes from people coming into a dental practice and saying, look, don't take this personally, but I'd rather not be here. Don't take this personally, but I hate your guts. So how can dentists take advantage of the principles of Feng Shui in their life, in their design of their practice, and also in the design of their homes as well? So, Jane, let's start with the obvious. How do dentists improve their Feng Shui, apart from burning their practice down and starting from scratch?
Well, let's just start with what is Feng Shui, because I think a lot of people need to kind of get a little bit of education on what it actually is, because there are so many myths and misconceptions out there. And a lot of people think that it's to do with putting tacky, lucky objects around the place, or that it's about decluttering. But there's really so much more to that. And Feng Shui is about your relationship with your environment and your surroundings, and how the energy in your surroundings can impact you on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. So if you think about that, and a dental practice or a healthcare setting, it's about creating an environment that feels welcoming, inviting, and helps people to maximizes the energy so that people feel like they're operating at their highest abilities, or they're feeling happy and welcome, and it's just bringing that positive energy and feeling of calmness into a space, rather than feeling like it's clinical, scary, unwelcoming, intimidating, or overly, it's. I think in a dental practice, people are feeling a bit stressed, and there can be a lot of
Just
anxiety.
a bit.
Yeah, a lot of anxiety about that. Some people are okay with it. I'm okay with dentists. I love dentists, and I actually one day I went to see the dentist with my husband on Valentine's Day. That's how much I love the dentist. But for some people, it can be a really scary experience. So it's about creating that element of peace and calm. And if I was to say, well, what should you do about that? Looking at the surroundings, you need to do things like uh, incorporate natural materials, things that create that peace and calm, like biophilic design, which is a big word, but it means creating that connection to nature. And so, natural materials, things like plants, having elements like water, for example, or even if you can't do that, having beautiful artwork that resembles nature in an abstract form, or artwork that is a botanical print, is really helpful, because it helps to tap into that reptilian brain, where we're looking for things like nature to create that level of calmness.
All right. So much to talk about there. Tell me, what's a reptilian brain?
Well, it's the part of your brain that is to do with fight and flight. So it's when you're set up so that your brain is set up so that when there's a tiger chasing you, you run. Okay, so when you have biophilic design around you, like the plants, water, natural elements, it helps to create that calmness, helps to calm that all down so that we're feeling more peaceful.
Hmm. Jane, I had a swimming pool in my home in Sydney that the only person who went near it was the pool guy for the last 8 or 9 years. But I kept telling myself that it was peaceful to be able to look at water from the home, and so that was my justification for having spent that money on a pool that nobody decided to use at our place.
Did it work for you? Did you feel peaceful, or did you feel like anxious that the pool guy, you had to spend money on the pool guy?
No, well, no, the pool guy, the money was spent. The money was spent. So it was. Some people used it when they were younger, but my children. But other than that, but it was nice to have a pool there, and I've just put a reflection pond in my yard here down in the Highlands. So and it draws people's eye from the house through the across the lawn and then to the hills in the distance. So I'm totally surrounded by nature down here.
Yeah, well, the thing
Um,
with water is that it amplifies energy. It amplifies energy regardless of whether it's positive or negative, and it also attracts energy as well. So if you've got a water feature, people will naturally be drawn towards it. But it's really important that we keep those water features clean. They don't get stagnant and don't have mozzies, breeding in them and all that sort of thing. So make sure that that water feature is
no,
fresh.
that's the truth. No, it's always got um, a bubbler in it, so that also draws people's eyes to the line of the bubblers. But anyway, back to the dental practice, because
Yes.
the other thing is that when you said surrounded with natural things in a dental practice, like there's always plastic surfaces and particle board cupboards. I guess that was wood once It's not really like full wood, but um, there's a lot of things in dental practices in terms of keeping things being able to be kept clean in the surgery. But you can have the client lounge area to be a place of peace and tranquility
Yeah,
rather than signs,
yeah.
which obviously there can't be a. Is there an ability to hold to have signs in an area and make it a place of energy, or a sign's just a no-no?
Signs, as in what to do, where to go, put your
Yeah,
mask
yeah,
on, all
yeah.
that sort of
Don't do
thing.
this, don't do that. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Do
Yeah.
you really need that in a dentist lounge? I haven't really seen that in my dentist lounge.
That's good, because my philosophy in our practice with my clients is that don't put a sign up for something that you should be actually telling people
Yeah.
instead. And so, because often the sign is there, it's our policy. Tap tap tap. Can't you read the sign? That's often what they say, and it goes back to the old. You've probably seen them maybe when you were young, um, where it says, "Please turn off your mobile phones because it will interfere with our valuable medical equipment." Like
Oh, no, I don't even
back.
remember seeing
Oh, see, you're too young to have seen
that.
and all those big X-ray warning signs, that radiation warning signs that have to go up,
Oh, well,
and
I think though I can't say I really recall seeing those at the dental practice that I go to. I think instead of having those, they sound like really intimidating signs. I would just put them in the spaces where they need to be, like in the X-ray room, rather than out in the lounge area. And instead, I would have things like inspirational quotes rather than scary signs.
of course, and that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, but sadly, a lot of people put a sign up as justification, like, you must pay for. Back in the day when people used to actually take accounts from dental surgeries, there'd be a sign that says you must pay for treatment on the day, and also
Oh,
when people arrive at a dental practice, there's a bell for them to ring because the desk is unattended. Again, that's not using their people. As you said earlier, some people find dental practices intimidating. A lot of people do. There's also the patient covered in tattoos who says they're afraid of needles, which is a bit of a joke. But that's people say, "I'm scared of needles, doc," and you go, "Yeah, what's with all the ink, buddy?" Um, but it is intimidating, and nobody wakes up on a Monday morning, Jane, and says, "Oh, I've still got $500 in my wallet. I might go shopping, see what the dentist has that I could buy." Nobody ever says. It's not a place where people will go. It's a grudge buy. Even with tyres, Jane, which is a grudge buy, people will say, "Oh, can't I get another 1,000 kilometres out of these tyres? Might kill my kids, might kill somebody else, but let's see if I can stretch it out." But dentistry, there is no, it's a must do sort of thing. Not many people go along because they like the taste of the fluoride, um,
well,
or
and
the
so
taste
their
of the
teeth
smoke.
can be lovely and clean, I guess. And so they,
Well, it is part of their health,
yeah,
but again, a lot of people don't think that this part of their body is connected to the rest of their body. The infection that's in their mouth, the blood flowing through that infection also flows through their healthy heart and their healthy lungs.
sure.
But people don't realise that. So um, it is intimidating. So getting back to your specialty rather than mine, and talking about how can we make it, because the thing that a really good practice, and you sound like the people are going to be contacting me saying, "Who's Jane's dentist?" Because it sounds like a really nice place to go, because it's not like every other dentist, and that's that's their point of difference. Because if if you want to be successful in any business, you just got to find out what everybody else is doing and do the opposite.
Yes.
And so that's what your dentist is doing. The
Yeah.
trouble is, all dentists, the, the issue that I have in dental practices is they all have these upstands still, which is a relic from dentistry in the 40s and 50s, where people used to come to the dentist, get a tooth pulled out, walk out with a mouthful of cotton wool and blood, and then they'd say, "I'll send the account," because they didn't want them to spit on them. So they actually had an upstand that they sat behind, and they had a glass shield as well to stop them spitting on it.
Oh my
This day and age,
goodness.
dentistry is not like that.
Yeah.
Dentistry is more about prevention. And
Yeah.
so there's no need for an upstand anymore. Conversation should be had on an eye to eye, sitting across a table, like two people having a coffee, and much more uh, dental treatment would be accepted when that upstand is removed. I say the number one instrument needed in most dental surgeries is a chainsaw to get that upstand off there so two people can sit opposite each other
Yeah.
at a desk.
Well, I think my dentist has actually nailed it, because as you walk in, there's a beautiful aquarium on the right hand side as you walk into the door, and that's a beautiful focal point with these gorgeous tropical fish, and kids love it. It immediately creates that calmness. We were talking about the natural materials, and you mentioned the melamine or whatever, or particle board,
Yeah.
but you can actually have those surfaces made to look like wood that look very realistic, or you can have timber surfaces on the vertical and have those laminate or stone on the top that still allow you to have that environment that is clean. So and then you can have fabrics too in the places where people are sitting. So it doesn't all have to be hard surfaces. So partly it's about balancing that yin and yang, balancing the hard and soft surfaces, the light and dark, the smooth and the textured, and including things like plants is great as well. The colors that you use play a part as well in dental studios. Is that the right way to say it? Dental rooms. There's probably a lot of white and metallic, and so let's think about balancing that out with some earthy sort of elements, colors like that have maybe a little bit of orange in them, or maybe a bit of pink, and greens are great.
It's interesting. When I renovated my practice for the last time, the company that renovated said they were going to do a feature wall in each treatment room as well as in the client lounge, and they painted them shades of earthy colours, like just a wall. It was just a wall of a different colour, and it was quite shocking to me when I didn't know what they were going to do. So when I came in, oh, okay, but we ran with it, and so what patients would say when they arrived and they were sitting in that lounge was, "This doesn't look like a dental waiting room. This looks like somebody's home." Because they
Yes.
had a very large coffee table with coffee table books on it, not trashy People magazines, and not lots of pictures of before and after photos of
Yes.
teeth with no faces.
Yeah.
Again, dentists tend to think, oh, that must show me as being a good dentist, but patients don't know what they're really looking at. If you show somebody a face of somebody with a nice smile, that's far more, that will sell more dentistry than just a picture of somebody with a moustache.
Of course.
But yeah, dentists tend to not do their research as to how can I make my practice help me? How can I make the design of my practice help me attract a better quality of patient who is going to be more motivated to keep their teeth and restore their teeth and make themselves have help themselves have a beautiful smile.
Yes.
So, so the practices that we were describing as the old style practices are the ones pretty well where people just went along because they had to go to the dentist as opposed to because they wanted to go. And so I see Feng Shui as being a really important part in helping patients spread the word of mouth. You've got to go to this dentist because it's just not like any other dentist that you've ever been to before. And so your physical environment, as well as making the dental staff feel like they're actually not in their own prison, it will also help the patients feel like I've arrived at a spa as opposed to I've arrived at a torture house.
Yeah. Very well put. Yes, and it's also important for retention as well, retention of clients, retention of staff, referrals, as you mentioned. So, and I think things like even we like meandering energy flow through a building. So things like curves on furniture is really great. So if you've got furniture that's got rounded edges or a bit of softness, I think that's really helpful. I do like the idea of having the coffee table sort of set up at the front with some good quality magazines or lovely books. I've seen dental practices with iPads for the kids to play on, little fridges where they've got some water and a coffee machine where people can feel like they're really at home and have that sense of relaxation. And even where you have the entrance or the reception desk that is there to welcome patients, that people are not being eyeballed as soon as they walk in, that maybe the receptionist or the lady at the office is looking a little bit away so that when they walk in they can just get a sense of, okay, I've arrived, and then be greeted by the receptionist. And then where you pay doesn't need to be on, it can be a separate area, like on a table where you're sitting and you're feeling comfortable, and you're having that able to be on a round table where you can have a calm conversation with the person there who's then booking you in for the next appointment. So you're feeling relaxed and comfortable, happy that everything's done. I mean, I've even been to places where they've got trophies on show, where the dental practice has maybe won some awards. There are some trophies there, or some memorabilia from charity auctions and things like that, so that it's showing a connection to the local community. There's so much that can be done.
Yeah, it's an underutilized resource that dentists don't like to um, stray from the path that they think they should be on, because that's just the path that everybody else is on, and it may not be the correct path. But and that's why we still have the upstand being sold as a very expensive piece of office furniture, and yet it's totally wrong for two people to be making treatment proposals, let alone financial arrangements, with one standing and one seated, and the one standing is closest to the door, and the one seated has no chance of even doing a rugby tackle on them if they start to run out. It's just totally wrong. Whereas if it's two people seated at it, in fact, the dentist that I'm going to today, their payment area is separate, and it's across a eye to eye seated table.
Yes.
And it's far more comfortable a relationship to be having. Yet it's never suggested in design. In fact, I've got a client at the moment doing a fit out of a blank canvas, and some of the things that are being thrown up by the design company, I'm going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And you actually just reminded me, we, by default, when I did an extension at my practice, we took over an adjoining space, but we didn't want to gut what we had. So we actually had a doorway where we were limited by an adjoining wall to a toilet washroom on the floor. So we ran a hallway from our front door. So people walked in the door and then walked down a hallway. So it was a well-lit hallway, but it wasn't that confrontation. I'm walking in, who's going to be looking at me and judging me? And the dental team was actually, then they walked into the lounge, and then the dental team would appear because they'd have heard the door chime go, but without it being a confrontational thing. So again, people were expecting to walk into the scene that I often describe it as, the barbershop scene in Coming to America, where where everybody's listening in on what should really be a private conversation. Dental practices are often set up like that, and medical practices too.
Yeah.
And again, they're wrong on a privacy issue, but they're also wrong on a compassionate issue as well. And so,
I think that
dental,
combination of having those taller reception desks and a little area on the side with the lower table where people can sit opposite that table, like on a round table, I think is ideal.
it's an interesting concept. Because I often look at it and think, well, the little seated area is the naughty corner because you don't get to stand, but you're still in the same room, and it's interesting. But one of the things that I learned early on about feng shui, and you mentioned you used the word, was getting the flow right
Yep.
and the meandering, and so that's true, isn't it? That you in your house you shouldn't have your front door and your back door in line. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's the ideal, is not to have your front and back door aligned, because what that suggests is that the energy and the money and opportunities come in and then they escape back out again. So it's about creating that, it's about containment, containing the positive energy and harnessing that at the entrance, and then taking that through and allowing it to meander through and feed through to the other areas of the home or business premises.
A lot of dental practices are small and they actually don't even have a back door.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that's right. So it's probably a non-issue for that, but for dental practices, because you've got other rooms behind the reception desk or reception area. But generally, if you have at the front entrance a little space where when you walk in, there's a sense of arrival. You can take a moment. You can see some beautiful artwork or something lovely that helps to draw the energy in to a place. In the case of my dentist, it's that lovely aquarium that is the focal point that helps to draw the energy in very effectively.
are mirrors useful?
Mirrors are good if they are drawing positive energy in from another space. Mirrors are complicated from a feng shui perspective because they draw energy in, they reflect it out. We would not have a mirror directly opposite the entrance ever, because that reflects energy and opportunities back out again. If you do have a mirror, then I would suggest putting something in front of it that obscures the view of someone looking at themselves when they walk in, because that can really freak people out. So generally speaking, I suggest not having mirrors where people are forced to see their reflection as they're walking around spaces, like at the end of a corridor or things like that. Mirrors are better where they need to be sought out, like in a bathroom or on the side, if you have to have it at the entrance, for example, along the side, so that you don't walk directly into it.
I've got you.
Yep.
All right. So if you enter a room, you have your mirrors on the side walls, not on the facing
Yeah,
wall.
well, I'm just careful with mirrors. I prefer to have them in designated spaces like the bathroom or behind a door, even in a bedroom, for example. I like them behind the door, or in a space that is able to reflect a beautiful view. So if you've got in your property where you are, if you've got a lovely view of the outdoors, if you have a wall that you can put a mirror on that reflects that view and brings it inside, that's a good thing from a feng shui perspective.
It's interesting, as you were talking about water before, and in the swimming pool, we actually used to have a mirror on the side wall of the family room. So as you walked in, you saw the mirror and it reflected from outside back. And of course, that room also faced south. So it actually brought more light into the room by using the mirror to reflect. But you're right, we did that in this house here when we bought it. People had a TV in the lounge room, and we're going, that's a perfect place to put a mirror because, again, the view was to the north. So when you came in the door of the north, you're looking at a TV. So now you're looking at a reflection of what's behind you as you're walking to the south. So
Nice. That's a really
it,
effective way of using mirrors from a feng shui perspective. Yeah.
mm.
It's also there's also this concept called the energy map, which is,
Tell me that.
yeah, every home or premises or property has a unique energy map that is like a blueprint or like a horoscope, I guess, that determines how well the the property or the home or the business premises supports the occupants. So if you think about the floor plan of a building and you divide it up into the directional sectors of north, south, east, and west, and then the intermediate ones, north, east, south, east, and so forth. Each of those particular sections of the property has a particular configuration of energy that tells me how well that energy supports the occupant for whatever purpose they're using that area for. So, for example, the way we use it is we like to have the wealth sector, we as in Feng Shui masters like to have the client's wealth sector at the front entrance, because what that means is that when you enter the property, when you're going in and out, it's activating that prosperous energy. And then if there's an area that's got toxic energy, for example, or maybe something that is related to illness, that could generally be a great space for having a storage room or the bathroom where it helps to drain that energy away or deactivate it. And then we use, from there, we use the 5 elements that are used in Chinese metaphysics. And the 5 elements are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And each of those elements relates to a particular color, shape, and material. So I would use the energy map then to guide where those elements need to go and what elements we need where. So let's say, for example, we have a front entrance that has the wealth sector in it. Well, that's a great space for water as well. So that would be a great space to have the aquarium or a little water feature if you've got one that's directly outside that's viewable from inside the room. Yeah, so that's the energy map. There's so much there's so much value in getting the energy map analyzed by a feng shui master in a home or your business premises.
Is it difficult to change a home? Is it easier for you in getting the feng shui correct to start with a blank canvas and say, or start with a drawing and say, this drawing's wrong, this is what you need to change, as opposed to walking into a physical home and go, we need to change this, we need to change that, we need to move that door. It must be tough in a physical,
Yeah,
already erected building,
it's
home or office.
it's always better when you're working with lines on a page, when you're working with a floor plan, or even if you go back from there, it's if you're selecting property and you're trying to decide between, say, 2 places or 2 or 3 places, or which one has the best energy from a feng shui perspective, that can really help you to make that decision. Uh, yes, it's difficult to work with a building that's already finished in terms of making those changes. However, I'm always dealing with people who've got an existing premises or existing property, and the objective is just to make the most of what you've got, to enhance the positive energy where you can, reduce the negative influences, improve the flow, put the right elements in where you can, and just try and maximize things with the arrangements and all of those other things that I mentioned, like artwork, plants, all of those sort of soft things that help to elevate that energy flow.
Yeah, I think again that's something that's very underutilized in dental practices is artwork. Um, Sometimes it can be putting plants in a dental practice can be difficult because there is lack of natural light, for the plant to grow, and also for some reason there's a lack of watering done by people as well. Who are very good at killing plants. Um, I even know somebody who actually killed a cactus in a pot plant. Can you believe that?
Well, natural light is actually a really important point that you've mentioned. It is
Mm.
good to have natural light in a space, and that helps people feel more connected to nature as well, and helps people to feel less stressed out as compared with the little hospital room that's got no windows. So we definitely want to have natural light where we can. Natural light, natural ventilation is ideal. I know that's not always possible because you've got aircon going, but at least fresh air. So if you think about the five senses, trying to incorporate some elements of those five to to maximize the feeling with the five senses is ideal. So if you think about smell, for example, you could have something like a diffuser that's got 100% natural essential oils in it. Things like lavender help people feel a bit more relaxed. So those lovely smells. We don't want to have any artificial air fresheners or those sticks that have those fake perfumes and things. We want to just reduce the chemical load into the indoor air. It's not good for the patients, not good for the people who are breathing that, like your staff. So we want to just have as much natural influences as possible. So even music is a good thing to do. So if you think about the sense of sound, music, having something that is pleasant, that is not going to bring people down or be depressing. How about TVs in dental practices? I've seen them up on the ceiling.
Yeah, yeah. We had TVs up on the ceiling before flat screen TVs were invented,
Oh,
which was really quite a job to get them up there, and then change. And they weren't made. There was no remote controls back in those days, so you actually had to climb up and turn the knobs on.
oh
But
my goodness.
a flat screen TV on a ceiling is very relaxing, and of course, if you can get those videos that they show in the TV shops of all those coloured travel scenes and nature
Yes,
scenes, that can be very relaxing as well.
exactly. And quite often I go to dental practices and the news is up there. People bombing each other in the Middle East or whatever. Like we don't want to see that when we're laying back in a dental chair. We want to see something is like that, like you mentioned. So curate what is coming out there to the messages that you're sending out to your patients.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Jane. The other thing that again, I was talking to a client about screens, and dentists don't seem to get this. They put a big monitor, and then everybody has to bend their neck to look at that screen. Um, in our practice, we actually had three monitors. We had one in front of the dentist that the patient couldn't see or would have to crane to see. We then had a mirror of that up on the TV on the roof. So if the patient did need to see what was on this monitor, the dentist could just flick a switch and it would change from TV to his monitor. And so he could be looking posturally correctly at his monitor without having to be looking like this up at the roof. And the patient would be able to see it fine. And then the third monitor on the wall in front of the chair, so that if the patient was vertical, then they could see it in a straight line as well. So having those three choices, as opposed to where's the best place to put the TV for three different options, which again is also a time waste, and also in a dental practice, the more you have to get somebody up and down, it's also can be awkward for them. Dental chairs aren't comfortable in the first place, so get them in, do the work, get them out is really far more efficient than get them up, get them down, get them up, get them down all the time, and in twisting their body. So maybe a little bit of Feng Shui just in the personal space is important there.
You've raised a good point though about dental chairs. If they can be comfortable, well, that's a great thing. So let's try and make them as comfortable as possible. Select the most comfortable ones. I can't say I've ever noticed one that I've felt like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. It's always been fine. I'm only there for half an hour or whatever, getting a clean. Yeah, as long as it can be customized to suit the patient's body.
Yeah. You're obviously going to a thoughtful dentist who's looked at it from the patient point of view and not from I actually went to buy a chair many years ago, and I sat in it, and I said, "This is really uncomfortable." And the salesman said, "We make it for the dentist, not for the patient." I'm going, I think you missed the mark there. Like, it might be nice just to have the headrest in the right position when you're working in that area, but if the patient wakes up and feels like they need to have a hot bath and a massage because they've been put in the wrong position or the thing's so uncomfortable, that's the wrong message completely.
Yeah.
Um, Really, really important. Um, there is so much to learn about feng shui. Tell me, as a discipline, are you still learning, or is it a finite thing?
No, no, the learning never stops. It's always learning, continuing professional development is a big thing for me, and I'm always attending the conference, international conferences, attending courses with different grandmasters. We have, yeah, and speaking to colleagues and other masters about our work. So it's reading books is it's non-stop. There's so much to learn really with feng shui because it's a bit of an esoteric art. So there are a lot of different schools. It's not like, I guess, with 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 dentistry, it's like there are probably certain ways of doing things, right? And maybe different yeah, I suppose there can be different ways of doing things, but you've got your set rules and guidelines. With feng shui, there are many different schools and different avenues that you can go down, and so it's not that easy to study. It's not as easy to study as it is to go to a uni to do a uni degree, because you have to find the right masters to study with, and then you have to get into practice yourself and see what's working for you and your clients.
What attracted you to feng shui, and then what attracted was it feng shui for personal reasons or feng shui as a different type of business?
Good question. So prior to being a feng shui consultant, I was an accountant. So I've had a big a big pivot in my career, and that was a long time ago now because I've been doing feng shui since 2008. But a psychic first introduced me to feng shui as a business, and as soon as I opened those books, I knew that that was where I needed to be, and that was my calling. And it started with doing feng shui for homeowners, for friends, for family, and then it grew from there. And then I started doing feng shui for businesses and commercial spaces. I work for people who are looking to appeal to the feng shui conscious market, uh, those who have Asian customers, even casinos. So I've worked with casinos overseas, and in the club industry as well. So there's a big scope. I mean, I've even done work for the government where the Sydney Chinese Gardens was doing a refurb project in the gardens, and they needed the plans to have sign off from a feng shui master to be able to get passed through the DA process. So there's so much out there that requires feng shui that people don't know about.
Tell me about clubs. Come
Yeah.
on, what's with the carpet design in clubs?
Well, I don't do all of the clubs, but the idea with carpet design, I guess they're just trying to make people feel energized in the space. When I do work in those sorts of spaces, it's about creating a place that feels like a lucky space to be, and a place where you want to spend time. And not it's not to get people into the gaming area and have them trapped and see the never know what time it is and all that sort of thing. We're way past that now. It's just about creating an environment that feels welcoming and inviting, helps people to feel like it's not an unlucky space. So we're making
Mm.
sure that all the symbolism and things feel auspicious. So with carpets, I don't like things that are too outlandish, but patterns that resemble the number 8 are really auspicious in terms of that Feng Shui conscious market. So because
In what way?
the number eight is seen to be, it sounds like the word
Unlucky.
for wealth in
All right.
in
Oh,
Cantonese.
four's the unlucky one, isn't
Four
it?
is the
Yeah,
unlucky
four's.
one that sounds like the word for death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
So if you've got a dental practice that's got a number eight, that's better than one that's got a number four. In terms of that market, like a lot of people, a lot of patients won't necessarily worry about that, but uh, people might be spooked by the number four.
I I owned an apartment in a building that had no fourth floor and no number 4, number 14 on any floor.
Yeah. Yep. Was that in Australia?
In Sydney, yeah.
Yeah. Which suburb were you in?
Surrey Hills.
Okay, that's interesting.
Surrey Hills. So it was an eight-story apartment, and there
Yep.
was no fourth floor at all, and no apartment 4 and no apartment 14 on any floor.
So they were
So
onto it.
they
They
were.
were onto
They
it. And
were.
if you go anywhere into these Asian countries, like I just went to Hong Kong recently, and the place that we stayed at, they didn't have a number four or a number 14 either
Mm.
in their levels. You know, the number four I think was the gym area, or they'll give it another name, like yeah, they'll give it another name that sounds a bit more auspicious than number four.
Yeah. Just sorry, my comment about clubs and the carpet. It always seems to be very multicoloured and very patterned, and kind of not the carpet that you'd have in your home.
No, definitely not.
No.
But they're trying
So
to, I guess, create a different energy in a club than they do in a home.
I thought it was trying to hide spills. Actually,
Yeah, true. Yep.
might just be functional.
Yeah,
a bit more life.
absolutely.
But anyway, so the dental industry and the healthcare industry is a big opportunity for dentists to stand out and healthcare practitioners to stand out by energizing their practices with a suitable design that is along the principles of improving feng shui and improving abundance, because nobody else is doing it. They're just following, where do I put the upstand? Where do I, sometimes the doors are in the wrong position. Sometimes I've seen practices where all the patients are facing the door, and so every time a dentist or a staff member walks in, they have to walk in patient view, whereas patients should really be facing a wall with a scenic mural on it,
Yes.
or a window.
Yes.
And
A window
the
with some greenery on the outside.
yeah. In fact, one of the first dental practices I visited when I graduated in Lakemba, of all places, had a full glass wall, and every treatment room faced that glass wall, and behind that glass wall was just a very narrow garden, and so they didn't look like they were in Lakemba at all.
Yeah.
And patients, once they got in there, it was very relaxing. And you're right about the music too in dental practices. Having peaceful music was a big game changer for us in our practice.
It really changes the vibe of the space, doesn't it?
Just getting people relaxed and calm is really important.
But even for your own work, if you're doing some paperwork or something and you feel a bit flat, I think adding a bit of music can help to just change the vibe.
Yeah, it is very peaceful, playing the right sort of music.
Yes.
We have a rule in our family that whoever drives the car chooses the music. So it's an interesting philosophy but now the other person just sits there with their headphones on, listening to their own music. So
would we want to get in the car with you, David? Is the question.
Only if you like old music, Jane. Only if you like old music. So some bands I don't have any idea what they sing. So, But yeah, but I do like live music, Jane. So
Oh,
there you
good.
go. Jane, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you to find out more about Feng Shui and how you can help them improve their professional as well as their home environments?
Well, they can contact me through my website, which is fengshuiconcepts.com.au. Feng Shui is spelled Fengshi. I think some people get that a bit wrong. Or they can follow me on Instagram. I'm quite active on Instagram at Feng Shui Concepts. And there's a lot of information and tips and insights in my book, which is Feng Shui, A Homeowner's Guide to Abundance. And that's available also through my website or online booksellers.
Lovely, Jane Langof. Thanks very much for being a guest on the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Really appreciate you spending time with us today.
You're welcome. Great to be here. Thanks, David.
Thanks very much, Jane.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favourite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.